Good morning, Chapter 33, Pinocchio, a donkey's fate. Seeing that the door did not open, the driver commanded to kick it violently until it first opened. Then he entered the room and said to Pinocchio and Candlewick, with his unusual oily smile, "Good boys, you brave first rate. I recognize your voices at once, and so you have come to take you away." At these words, the two little donkeys hung their heads and stood silent with ears drooping and tails between their legs. At first, the driver patted them and soothed them. Then, taking out a curry comb, he gave them a good currying. When he had done this so vigorously that they shone like two mirrors, he put a bridle on each of them and led them to the marketplace, with a view to selling them at a good price. And in fact, buyers were not long in coming. Candlewick bought by a farmer whose donkey had died the day before from overwork. But Pinocchio was sold to the manager of a company of clowns and trained performers, so that he could be trained to jump and dance with the other trick animals. And now, my little readers, do you know what trade that driver followed? That smooth-faced villain went everywhere with his carriage, and when everywhere he found any lazy boys who hated books and schools, he cajoled them to come with him. And when he had filled his carriage, he would take them to Playtime Land, where they spent all their time in idle fun. After these poor deluded boys had spent certain length of time in this manner, they always turned into donkeys, just like Pinocchio and Candlewick, and then the driver took them and sold them. In this way he became a rich man. What happened later to Candlewick, I do not know. As for Pinocchio, let him had let it sorry. As for Pinocchio, he led a hard, weary life of it. When he was led to his new quarters, his master filled the manager with chopped straw. But Pinocchio, after taking a mouthful of it, spat it out again. Then the master, growling, put down some hay, but that didn't suit him either. "Oh, you do not even like hay," cried the master, engaged. "All right, my fine fellow, if you have such notions as this in your head, we'll see if we can't get them out." And taking a whip, he gave Pinocchio a sound cut across the legs. In great pain, Pinocchio brayed aloud, and this is what he said: "Hee haw, hee haw, I don't like straw." "Then try hay," replied his master, who understood donkey talk very well. "Hee haw, hee haw, hay gives him the stomach ache. So you think then that a donkey ought to be fed on chicken and capon and jelly?" Sneered the man, and gave him another cut with the whip. At this second blow, Pinocchio thought it was wise to keep his mouth shut, so he said no more. The man closed the stable door and went away. Pinocchio was alone, and as he had eaten nothing for several years, he began to yawn from hunger. Excuse me. When he yawned, he opened his mouth so wide it looked like an oven. He began to hunt around, but finding no other food, he resigned himself to nibbling a little of the hay. And so having chewed a good mouthful, he shut his eyes and swallowed it. This hay isn't so bad after all, he said to himself, and fell to eating it with a relish. The next morning on awakening, he began to hunt for some more hay, but couldn't find any, and he had eaten it all during the night. So he took a mouthful of the chopped straw and tried that. He could not persuade himself it was as good as rice with cream or macaroni with cheese, but he managed to eat it, saying to himself, "Hard luck, hard luck, nonsense! Call the Call the master, who just then entered the stall. Do you think my high and mighty that I brought you just to watch you eat and drink, not by a jug? I brought you to put you to work so that you can earn a lot of money for me. So out with you, my hearty. Come with me to that sawdust ring, and I will teach you to jump through a hoop and to bounce. After that, you must learn to dance upon your hind legs." Poor Pinocchio had to do as the man said and learned a lot of tricks. It took him 3 months and he got money. He got he got many a blow for his pains. But at last came the day when his master was ready to announce a truly wonderful show. Posters of many colors were put on every street to tell what Pinocchio could do. Grand gala performance will take place tonight. Wonderful jump, surprising feats by all the artists of the company and by all the heroes special. There will be present for the first time the famous donkey Pinocchio, rightly called the Dancing Star. The theater will be as bright as day. That night, as you may easily guess, an hour before the time for the show to begin, the theater was crowded, the whole house swarmed with children of all ages, down to tiny tots, eager to see the dancing of the famous donkey Pinocchio. After the end of the first part of the performance, the manager, dressed in a long black coat, close-fitting white trousers, and leather riding boots, which reached to his knees, came before the audience, made a low blow, and began a grandiloquent speech sounding the praises of his wonderful donkey. This celebrated artist has already had the honor of dancing before the crowded heads of Europe. He ended. His speech was greeted with much laughter and applause, which was redoubled until it became like a hurricane. When they saw Pinocchio come into the middle of the ring, he was dressed very gaily. He had a new bridle of shining leather with buckles of polished brass. 2 white tassels hung from his ears. His mane was woven into many plaits, each tied with red silk. A broad band of gold and silver went round his body, and his tail was interwoven with many colored ribbons. In a word, he was the finest donkey ever. The manager presented him to the audience with another flowery speech, telling how he had found the savage animal traveling at large in the torrid zone, how all his efforts to tame him had been of no avail, and how at last he had discovered a small bone in the animal's head, which showed fondness for dancing, so he had devoted his efforts in that direction, with the happy result that here before them they had Pinocchio, the dancing star. And the manager made another low bow and turning to the donkey said, "Now, Pinocchio, before beginning your tricks, pray salute this fine audience of gentlemen and ladies and children." Pinocchio obediently knelt down upon the knees of his four legs and remained kneeling until the manager, cracking his whips, cried out, "Now march!" The donkey then stood up again and began to go around the ring, but always keeping step. "Now trot!" commanded the masters, and Pinocchio began to trot. "Now gallop!" and Pinocchio began to gallop. "Now full speed!" and Pinocchio began to run as fast as he could. But while he was going like a Barbary horse, the manager raised his arm and fired a pistol at this. The donkey pretended to be wounded, fell sprawling in the ring, and lay stiff as though really dead. Rising from the ground, amid bursts of applause which seemed to lift the roof, Pinocchio chanced to look upward, and there he saw a beautiful lady in the balcony, who had on a golden necklace, from which hung a locket, and this locket contained a picture of a puppet. That that is my picture, that lady is my fairy, cried Pinocchio to himself, recognizing her at once, and overcome with joy he tried to cry out, "Oh, my fairy! Oh, my fairy!" But instead of these words, there came from his throat such a prolonged groan that it made all of the spectators laugh, especially all the boys. Then the manager, in order to teach him better manners than to bray in public, gave him a cut of the whip on the end of his nose. The poor little donkey thrust out his tongue and licked his nose about 5 minutes. It hurt him so, but what was his despair on looking upward a second time, when he saw that the balcony set was empty and the fairy had despair. He felt as if he should die. His eyes were filled with tears, and he began to weep bitterly. No one seemed to notice it, not even the manager, who cracked his whip, crying, "Cry again, my good Pinocchio. Now show these ladies and gentlemen with what grace you can jump through these hoops." Pinocchio tried two or three times, but every time he came to a hoop, instead of jumping through it, he ran underneath it. At last he jumped through, but his hind leg got caught in the loop, and he stumbled and fell to the ground. When he tried to get up, he was lame, and they could hardly lead him to his stall. "Bring out Pinocchio." What? We want the donkey." "Bring out the donkey," shouted all the boys in the pit, who felt sorry, for he was hurt. But the donkey could not appear any more that night. The next morning the veterinarian, that is the doctor of animals, looked him over and then said that he was lamed for life. So the manager said to the stable boy, "What use we for a lame donkey? He would only be another mouth to feed. Take him to the marketplace and sell him." The boy led him away, leaping and when they reached the square, they soon found a buyer who wanted to know the price. $4, answered the boy. I will give you the 5 cents for him. Do not think that I can make any use of him. I want only his skin. I see that it is very tough and I can make a good drumhead out of it. Just imagine how delighted Pinocchio must have felt when he heard that he was to be skinned for a drumhead. The boy took the quarter as that was the best price he could get, and the buyer led the donkey up on top of a cliff bordering the seacoast. And having tied a stone to his neck and fastened a rope to him, he led the other end of the rope and pushed the beast over the edge into the water. Pinocchio sank at once to the bottom of the bottle because of the stone. The man holding one end of the rope sat down and waited until the donkey said, "Have time to drum." Then he proposed to him up to pull him up and skin him. Yeah.